Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. You start becoming disturbed because you want something, and then you work really hard to get that thing, and you're miserable in the meantime. And then when you get that thing, you actually revert to the state you were in before you had that thing. It's not like you get to some blissful peak level that you stay on. There's this delusion that there's something out there that will make me happy and fulfilled forever. That is a complete delusion. No one thing seems to do that. We can talk later about enlightenment, and that does seem to head in that direction of a permanent solution, but we're not going to explore that just yet. We're just talking about common sense happiness. There's no single permanent solution to it. Rather, it is a process of understanding. It is a process of self-discovery. It's a process of training yourself and seeing certain truths. If obtaining things were to permanently make us happy, then the cavemen would have been miserable, and we should all be deliriously happy right now. So obviously net happiness per person is not going up. It might even be going down. Modernity probably brings more unhappiness than past times. So happiness is returning to that state where nothing is missing in this moment. Desire to me is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Okay, and I keep that in front of mind. So when I'm unhappy about something, I look for what is the underlying desire that I have that's not being fulfilled. It's okay to have desires. You're a biological creature. You're put on this earth. You have to do something. You have to have desires. You have a mission. But don't have too many. Don't pick them up unconsciously. Don't pick them up randomly. Don't have thousands of them. My coffee's too cold. Doesn't taste quite right. I'm not sitting perfectly. Oh, I wish it were warmer. Oh, my dog, pooped in the lawn. I didn't like that. Whatever it is. Pick your one overwhelming desire, and it's okay to suffer over that one. But on all the others, you want to let them go so you can be calm and peaceful and relaxed. And then you'll perform a better job. Well, Confucius had a great saying that, every man has two lives. And the second starts when he realizes he has just one.
Wow.
And I read that, and it was one of those book-dropping lines. It's like mic drop. Confucius had a lot of mic drops.
Confucius was a bad motherfucker.
He was.
That's a crazy one.
That was a great one. Or another one is next time you get sick, because everybody gets sick every now and then. It's like a happy person wants 10,000 things. A sick person just wants one thing, right? So it's your unlimited desires that are clouding your peace, your happiness. Have desires. You're a biological creature that stands up and says, I can do something. I move, I resist, I live. But just be very careful of your desires. This is the oldest, most trite wisdom. Desire is suffering. That's what it means, right? Every desire you have is an access where you will suffer. So just don't focus on more than one desire at a time. The universe is rigged in such a way that if you just want one thing and you focus on that, you'll get it. But everything else, you gotta let go. We all have many, many desires in life. There's lots of things we want to do. We want to be fit. We want to be healthy. We want to be happy. We want to be rich. We want to be with our, with the perfect mate. The problem is, when your desires are that split up, what you're doing is you're creating massive amounts of anxiety. You're losing your focus. So what you really want to do is you want to pick the one thing you care about more than anything else, and you want to ignore everything else. You want to ignore everything else in a rational way, because otherwise you'll never have peace of mind. So you just have to sort of accept the situation that you have with everything else, and you sort of have to focus on the thing you care about. So if you're going to make money, it has to be your number one desire. I'm sorry to say it. I'm not saying that'll necessarily make you happy in other ways, but it's very, very hard to be successful in business while you're trying to live a well-rounded life. You can change it later once you're above a certain level of success. But if you want to be happy, then making money as a way to be happy is the wrong route. You essentially want to just go straight for happiness.
Happiness could be I'm just going to go drink all day at the bar.
That's pleasure. That's not
Okay.
happy. So happiness is one of these bad words, and I'm almost sorry to bring it up because it's an overloaded word. It's like friendship or love. It could mean anything to anyone. To me, happiness is an internal trait that comes out of being peaceful and accepting of whatever is going on around you. It's that sense that nothing is missing in this moment. right? So if you have the sense that something is missing in this moment, aka a desire that will pull you out of this moment and will make you unhappy. Our natural state is to be happy. If a child is unhappy, you say, what's wrong? If an adult is really happy, you say, why are you happy? Right? It's a little weird. So I think we're born with happiness. We're intrinsically happy creatures, but we become unhappy because our egos create desire. The desire pulls us out of the moment, says something is missing right now, and then we chase that, and then we wonder why we're unhappy. And then we try to drown that sense of loss out through pleasure. And pleasure comes through drugs, drinking, partying, sex, whatever. Could even be extreme sports. It's all just trying to forget ourselves. And I think there are ways past that.
I'm the extreme sports problem guy.
And we all have it. I mean, we're all looking for ways to forget ourselves because we often are our own worst terrors. We're our own worst taskmasters. We're always arguing with ourselves, disciplining ourselves, wanting things, then not wanting to want things, fantasizing about things, regretting things. It's this constant monkey mind loop that's running in your head. That's why now meditation is in vogue, because people are starting to realize, like, maybe that's not how I'm meant to live. That's not how I'm meant to survive. 300 years ago, or even forget 300, 5 years ago, pre-smartphone, 7 years ago, you weren't constantly being pulled out of your present reality into your phone, being like this constant little addiction. We're like pigeons now in B.F. Skinner's experiments, pressing little levers to get dopamine hits.
That's right.
So we've been reduced to that, and it's really important to be cognizant of first you get to a peaceful state where you feel like nothing is missing and I'm okay with this moment. Then you can add your desires very carefully one by one.
That's a hard state for most people. Right? I mean, that's the challenge.
It is a challenge because we've unconsciously been led there through desires that we copy from other people. Right. Most of our desires are picked up through society, what other people are doing, what my friends are doing, what my brother's doing, what my classmates are doing, what my wife wants, etc. So we copy those desires and then we make them part of ourselves and we drive forward. But really, what do you really need? I think deep down, nobody is doing it for themselves. Deep down, everyone thinks they're fighting for a cause or they're helping out some downtrodden person or it's for their family or whatever. But when it comes down to what you actually need, you need a little bit of food, a little bit of water, a little bit of place to put your head.
What do I say all the time? I'm not crazy. I'm with the smartest guy on the planet right now. And I'll tell you what, when I started doing these crazy races, right? It became clear one day. I was like, this is the most peaceful place ever because all I want is water, food, and shelter right now. I don't want anything else. I'm not chasing anything. I just want water, food, and shelter.
That's right.
And I couldn't really describe why that was so peaceful, but you just nailed it.
And that's what everybody wants. And then that's it.
But we get away from that.
Exactly.
Right?
We create these constructs of desire that we copy from each other on top. It's really important to sit down sometime, close the door, turn off the lights, and just sit there by yourself and watch your mind. Don't even judge it. Don't even argue with it. Don't even fight it. Just watch the thing run out of control. Your mind is like a monkey that's running around flinging feces and throwing bananas everywhere. It's impossible to control. And ask yourself, how did I become like that? Because when you were a child, you weren't like that. Look at any 2-year-old. They're not like that. They live very much in the moment. They don't have constant, uncontrollable thoughts about the past or the future. And that's what keeps them happy. So how can you uncondition some of these things that you don't want anymore running through your head? It's possible, but it's different for everybody.
Sure.
So
Like?
it just, well, like any desire will cloud your happiness, right? Think of happiness as your natural state. It's like the sun shining, but any single desire is a cloud covering that sun. And most of us have many, many desires. So those clouds cover the sun, in many cases completely block it out. And sometimes you have so many unresolved desires and issues and anxieties that they just completely blot out the sun, and it does it for years at a time, then you lose track of why you're doing it. So I don't think one should necessarily give up on their desires. You're a biological creature walking this earth. You're going to have some desires, have some fun along the way. But just if you realize that your desires are what blot out the sun, then you just want to be very, very careful which ones you have. And if it seems dark and gloomy, it's because you have too many desires running at this moment in time. So it's more just kind of an observation, and it's not to say that it's rare for me to be unhappy these days. I would have to stretch far back into memory to find the last time I was genuinely unhappy. But at the same time, it's not like I'm happy most of the time. That's not a sustainable state either. What I more go for is calm and peace, because peace, can be converted to happiness at any time. I think I said this before, but I think peace is happiness at rest, and happiness is peace in motion. So if you are just living a very peaceful and calm life, but then you engage in activity, you will naturally find that activity is happy. Although if you set out to be happy, you won't get there. It's kind of one of the ironies of the loaded word called happiness. But I think peace is the real deal, and I definitely think you can find it, and you can find it just by observing when you are and you aren't at peace. But the most important thing is you have to value it. If you value it, you'll find it. If you don't value it, that's fine too. It's just because you're valuing something else. You're valuing career success, or you're valuing finding a mate. Those are actually the two most common: money and the opposite sex, survival and replication. Those are the two biggest clouds that cover our natural innate happiness. One way you can see that we're meant to be naturally happy is just watch little kids, right? Little kids running around are naturally happy. If a child is not happy, you say, what's wrong, right? On the other hand, if you see an adult who's very happy, you say, what's up? What's wrong, right? So it's our expectation that children should be happy, but it's our adults that adults should not. The expectations adults should not. And why is that? Because puberty is the beginning of desire. You can see children when they go from being happy little go-lucky kids who are playing with whatever's there in front of them in the moment, to suddenly they hit puberty and then they discover desire. And it's the most basic desire, the desire to replicate, the desire to find the opposite sex. I try not to have expectations of what I'm doing next or where things are going to go, because then you close yourself off to the opportunities that the universe is constantly dropping all around you. It's just, you have to go pick them up, and you have to be aware enough to notice them. And if you're too single-minded with your desires, you're not going to notice new opportunities to grow that are emerging. And in fact, like, the worst thing that could have happened to you was if you'd gotten all the desires, if everything you wanted in life had actually happened. You'd be living in your hometown, you'd be married to your high school sweetheart, you'd be doing your first job, but you'd be the boss at Dunkin' Donuts or whatever your first job was, right? So the world doesn't always give you what you want, but it often gives you what you need. And for that, you just have to be willing to accept that, maybe this is not the right place or the right time for me, and I just need to move on. I'm not Christian, but there is that famous line in the Bible that Jesus says, easier than a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. And I think I understand what he means. I actually don't think happiness is its own thing. I think a lot of what we think of as happiness is actually just pleasure. It's physical pleasure, either from, oh, that tasted good, or it might be momentary pleasure from, oh, she loves me or he loves me. But I think true happiness comes out of peace. And peace comes out of many things, but it comes out of fundamentally understanding yourself. It comes from looking inside yourself and understanding how much of what you're reacting to are emotional reactions, or attachment, is self-inflicted suffering, it's desire that you have for things that you probably shouldn't care that much about. There's the old saying, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's a little exaggerated. It's more aspirational. Sure. Of course, there's all kinds of things you're going to have to do that you don't necessarily want to do in the short term, but it's for a greater cause, for a mission that you believe in. But I would say definitely, this all comes out of desire. We want certain things. We make sacrifices to get those things. You can basically get anything you want out of life as long as it's one thing. That's my learning. If you want to be, rich, you can be rich. You're going to spend your entire life trying to be rich. That's what you're going to work on. You want to be happy. You can spend your entire life being happy. You'll get it. That's what you'll work on. The problem happens when we have multiple desires, when we have fuzzy desires, when we sort of want to do 10 different things and we're not clear about which is the one that we care about. I would suggest that you basically pick one fervent desire that you have above all else. Find a way to reach that desire where it doesn't feel like work. You enjoy the thing that you're doing so much, and on a general high level basis that it won't feel like work. Then you'll outcompete everybody else.